So welcome to September Power Hour. I am Tessa, coming from Indiana, joined by Megan, who's now out in Phoenix, Arizona. And we are here tonight to do two layouts. One I will start with, and then we'll follow up with Megan. So we appreciate all of you that chose us or the debates. I promise that it could be a little bit more entertaining and definitely more fun. Although I told Megan, I did not realize it. I mean, I have not had time to look at the news. I didn't realize the debates were tonight, but I was like, okay, we have to come up with a list of topics to debate. And she suggested we could debate a few different things. So if you have a good debate topic for scrapbooking, you can put it in the chat. One was like top loading sleeve versus pages. Then there's like the tea versus coffee that Megan and I have gotten into in the past. Oh yeah, the trimmer. I thought about the trimmer. Are we converting to the new trimmer or keeping our old trimmer? That would be the debate that's ongoing. I promise 90 days. So we'll see. There are things to like about it, other than the fact that it's a guillotine. It is a very nice, crisp sound to it. So I do like it. I did think about the repo tape, regular versus repo, because I know some people use repo all the time, and I go back and forth. I'll use regular and repo. Tilt of the pictures, that's good. Megan is a picture tilter, and it takes a lot for me to tilt any picture. That's a good one too. In person or virtual events. My retreat this weekend is in person. And I applaud every advisor that does in person and virtual at the same time, because that's really far out of my scope. I don't think I could handle that. Foam squares versus foam tape. I've never actually opened foam tape, so I guess I'd be on the square side of life. But definitely keep those going. They're great topics, good ones to have. Okay, so we're going to start with my layout tonight. So I will find my, there we go, Megan is trying not to talk very much tonight because her mouth hurts her a little bit. So she's saving all of her words for her layout. If you wonder why she's not chiming in, you guys will have to talk to me through the chat. So again, I have another one pager tonight. Again, it is a little bit simpler of a layout. As you know, I just like to get them done, but I like to find ways to incorporate a little bit into the design. And this was finally my last layout of this collage of photos, of which quite a bit I used painted garden. So it's a nice layout to use if you have a collection that has some different contrasting colors, kind of lighter, darker tones. There's not too much to the technique, but it's a good way to focus your papers. And so I have the background paper. I have this deep raspberry. It has some tone on tone texture. I chose kind of a subtle statement print as my base. And see, guys, I don't know how well you can see, it has the flower print on there. And then we're going to cut a strip over here for the side. It's longer, and I have it offset off the edge a little bit, so we still see that raspberry color on this side, but we're using a decorative blade, which of course is optional, but it's always fun for me to find a reason to turn over the trimmer and find a blade. And then down here, we're going to play with our punches. So when you do choose a punch, I suggested you find an edge style border punch. Will be hard to replicate with a border maker because we can't offset the start as easily. So if you're really set on choosing a border maker cartridge, we get that housing that gets in the way. You might just need to adapt your design and cut the border shorter than 12 inches and just offset the two punch the same way. So this was Mandela burst punch, and then I'll show you how to offset your punch to get the layered effect, and then a little bit of print up there. So tonight this is the other side of it. Just kind of another adaptation I did. I chose to do two different colors. I did it on the side. So another alternative layer. This is the side-by-side that will sit in my book. And I was just basically using up the extra scraps of pieces that I had. For tonight, I have some pictures I've already started on Homebody. And so I wanted to go ahead and make another layout set for these pictures when I took a trip to Nashville with my mom and my sisters. I can't guarantee I'm probably going to put the photos on tonight, but I am going to go ahead and make the layouts. And I have a few postcards too. We went to Ryman Auditorium while we were down there. So I wanted to play with the dollop. This would have been a good one, the dollop arch, but I've already started this layouts with arch frame. And so that's what I'm going to continue with on these layouts for tonight. So you want an edge style border punch ideally. And then we need to choose a base paper, and then we need at least two strong sections for the other paper, and then we'll need something to punch out of. So for my base paper, I want to go a little bit lighter so it will pop, and I'll probably use this little gridded print. And one thing I also have to think about, if we're using the arch frame, it's a little bit special because it punches out these extra pieces inside that you can flip, which is a fun use that not every border punch does. So I am looking at both sides so I can flip my paper. I'm going to use this brown, and on the other side is a navy. So that will give me the punches for sure. And then I need to pick the paper to go down the edge. The challenge too with Homebody is there's not a ton of papers. It's just a 6-pack. So I really am going to be using all of it to get the combination. And then the other piece is basically the back side of the grid, which is a light color. So that will be probably the matte I'd choose. I have two options. If I know if I want to punch in this one, so I can choose if I want to use the green, so it's peeking out, and then the light would be, or I probably would get a better contrast if this is my bigger section and I do this one over here. The other option is doing blue. I'm just going to lose a little bit of the contrast down here when I get into the borders. And the Painted Garden was a great collection for me to actually make this originally with, because there was a lot of tonal papers in there. But we'll just get going through it and we'll see what works and what doesn't. We'll figure it out together. So once you know your bigger pieces of paper, I'm going to start with the tall one. So it's the one that's going to be 5 by 11 with the decorative blade. So choose a decorative blade that goes with your papers. The arch frame has kind of a softer scallop to it. So I might just use the wave blade, I think would complement that one pretty well. So you can have a scrap piece of paper if you want for this one, but I'm going to cut it 5 inches wide. And then I want to trim down to 11 inches using my decorative blade. So the first cut, I just need to make this little. I'm just giving myself the edge. And then I want 11 inches for this side. And then for the next piece, I want 11 1/4 by 9 1/2. And I want the long edges to be the decorative blades. So I have to think about, of course, when I make the layout, I cut these and then I did the decorative cuts after. I want 11 1/4 by 9 1/2, and I want the 11 1/4 sides with a decorative blade. So I can go ahead and just make this whole thing a decorative long cut. I'm using most of the paper. And then I want it to be 9 1/2 inches tall. That gives me 2 decorative cups. I'm going to go back to my straight blade, and then I only want it to be 11 1/4 inches wide. So if it's easier for you to just cut straight cuts on all the edges and then get out the decorative blade, sometimes my mind works easier that way. But that gives me my 2 larger pieces. I can also rethink my base right now too. I was thinking as I cut this that I could probably just do a cardstock base, and then I save myself all of the print options for the punches. I actually pulled out the salt in case I needed cardstock, and you don't see a ton of the base paper, so I think I'm just going to go ahead and put this on the salt as the base. And then I can use that print on this side. So I'm going to adhere this piece first. So I just want it to be about 1/8 of an inch from the edge. I really just want to see a peak of the color coming through, and I want to center it. So it's going to be about a little less than 1/2 an inch um, from the top and the bottom. I'm like trying to double check my directions at the same time, make sure I wrote this right. Yeah, this is a 5 by 11 inch, so 1/8 an inch from the left, 1/2 inch from the top and the bottom. Okay, that part's good. You could adjust this in a little bit if you want to, if you want to see more. It kind of depends on how many photos you have. And then with this piece, I also want to go 1/8 of an inch over here, and I want it centered between the top and the bottom, which is going to be about 1.25 inches. Yeah, I think that was a great choice on the basalt because this is really popping my papers out against it. Basalt is an old color. This is why you buy every color that comes in the paper buffet, especially the ones that are not bright. So a more recent buffet maybe wasn't up your alley, which is fine. But yeah, basalt was a year or two ago. Okay, so I have those pieces. Now I need to think about my border. So like I said, I'm going to use this one and I can punch it again, or I could do another border with this one if I want to set it. I'll start with this and we'll see if I want to do a different color or not. So I'm going to punch my first one normally. So I'm starting in the front with the black line, just as we usually do with the border punch. I do like one of the suggestions in the chat was the debate about whether you make layouts with photos or if you make them in advance. I know that some people are very strongly in the camp of never making layouts without photos. I think other people have given up on that and just make layouts because they like to do everything that Megan and I do, whether they have photos to go with it or not. Lori, I'm looking at you. I'm just kidding. There's a lot of you. They're like, well, we'll just make it because it's cute and we'll figure out the picture part later. Okay, this is an edger, so I do need to trim it. The one that's going in the back, you only need to cut as wide as you want to layer. And the one that you want in front, you want a little bit extra so that you can put that strip of paper. Now, I don't know if I want this in the front or the back yet, so I'm going to go ahead and trim it so it has a 7 1/8, at least 7 1/8 inch. And so what I'm talking about is on your punch, you're going to have a straight edge kind of under your design. And I want at least 7/8 there. You can go to 1 inch if you want to have extra space. If you go to at least 7/8, you can cut a 5/8 inch strip to give you some space, or 1 inch is easier. That's fine too. Okay, so I'm going to cut this one. I'm going to go ahead and punch again, and we'll see if I like the look. So this time it's a little bit easier if you have a frame punch because there is a silver line on the side. So if you're using a frame punch like me, that's where you want to start your second cut. If you are not, if you're using one like Mandela Burst was for me, you just want to start your paper at the tip of the design. So wherever you kind of consider this, the center of the tip of that design is where you want to start it. And you're going to have an open edge there, but we're going to come back and punch that at the end. This all the way pulled through. I don't want to rush it. I don't want to screw it up. So then once you're through the end here, you need to come back and punch that edge. Save my pieces. So you can just pull it out the left side. So you're going to line it up on the left side of it. And that's gonna give you that end done. We'll see. The reason I'm not convinced is when I did Painted Garden, it was the same paper, but it was an ombre paper. And so I had a differentiation in the colors, even though it came out of the same paper. If I flip this one, we're gonna see what it looks like. I also have this sheet too. I could punch the lighter color. I should bring this down a little bit. Do it without bouncing. Okay. So let's look at the border. So I have two that can offset. If I flip, I can decide which one I want in front, which one I want in back. I think I would do the brown in the back. And you can decide how you want it to offset, and you want to leave a little bit of space. You want to make sure you see that decorative edge along the bottom. So I'm going to have the bottom edge of this border at about 1.5 inches. So I know that, I'm confident of that, and then I can kind of look at the strip above it and decide how much of it I want to see under there. I like that. That's probably about 1/4 inch or so. The problem is I'm going to cover this up if I flip my pieces. Actually, what I may do is just not fill in the back pieces. If I did, I would see the blue back there. Like I said, this is a dilemma only for those of you that also choose to use arch frame. Otherwise, you don't have to make this choice. I feel like if I put the blue in there, I kind of lose the layering effect. So I could leave the back open and then cover the front with the brown. Kind of fills in those gaps. Okay, so then when I know kind of where I want that back piece, I'm just gonna look over here at the side. It looks like the tip of my border is almost a 3.5. So where you want yours is going to depend on how tall your border is. And I'm not going to fill those in, so I can go ahead and adhere this one underneath it. I'm using both sides of the mat to make sure I am getting it straight all the way across. And then I can fill in my empty sections. I used to never scrapbook without pictures, but that all went out the door when I started doing classes. Someday I need to literally spend like a month printing all the pictures I have backlogged, and I could get a whole lot of albums done with these pages I have. But the other challenge is because I'm always having to like come up with something for the next class, I can't really go back and use the pages I made because you guys have already seen them. I have to come up with some new idea someday. Okay, and I need to figure out where I put my other pieces up here. Two more. I have a short memory too. Kelly's like, I have short memories. You could see the same thing again. That's very true for me. Even sometimes when we do some of these layouts and then I go back and I'll look at all of them like, oh, that was kind of similar. I'm like, well, if I don't remember, they probably won't either. Good. So that gives my border down. So now my final decision point is what strip do I want right here? Like I said, it can fit about a 5/8 of an inch. The only pattern I have left out of this set I haven't put on the page yet is this lighter side. So I'm going to cut 5/8 of an inch. Or you could, if you cut yours originally at 3/4, you could, or at 1 inch, you could do 3/4. That's a half. I'm 5/8. I can't talk and measure at the same time. I'll cut the script. Okay. The reason I like 5/8 is it's like, I don't know, it's just a little beefier than half an inch, but it doesn't take up as much space as an inch because I know at the end of the day, I'm gonna be trying to get a lot of pictures up here at the top. So here's the back side. I could use that dotted side again if I wanted, which does pop nicely, or I could just keep it the neutral color, which I like, maybe a little less busy since I've got some layers to my border there. So some other border punches I was looking at as I went through, I almost grabbed one of the mountains. Those would be good. The puddle frame, most of the frame punches would be good ones to choose. And if you don't have a good one to choose to offset, then you could just try layering 2 punches. I know some people have done, like, especially if you have, like, a border maker that you wanna use, just find a different, one to put behind there. Have a lot of you guys grabbed the bring back punches from this week? A lot of you probably had all of those already, but they have definitely been flying off the shelves. People wanted, especially rolling hills and, on the road with some. There were some I was surprised that I think they could have, people would have wanted more, but these are going to sell out. So I'm sure they're like, well, maybe next time. Okay, so that gives me my layout. So I'll show you what it looks like with the photos, even though I'm not going to figure this part out yet. But this would be actually a nice layout for the postcards. For if you have too many photos, again, peekaboo pockets would work nicely. You could overlap at the top if you wanted to and get 2 4x6, and this is why I kind of made this a little bit larger. You know, you do have extra space down here. When you're ready to embellish, you can see on my painted garden one that I moved up my embellishment cluster. So it would have looked really nicely down here in the corner, but the way that these photos look, I even have a crooked picture, and you guys know I like never do this. But sometimes when you have all vertical photos, it gets hard to fit them all the way across if they're matted and you don't just want to stack them up. So I did do a little bit of an angle there. I was really proud of myself, but it just made more sense to pull up my circle up into the pictures a little bit right here rather than keep it down here at the edge. And so with this layout, you know, where do I want to have my kind of my embellishment cluster? Down here is the most obvious place, unless again I end up with, you know, things that are kind of spread apart out here. You don't want to leave kind of an open hole in the middle of it. So I would pull your embellishment focus kind of right there, if you need to. I was flipping through these pictures of Nashville, which I haven't trimmed or anything. I'm like, they're all of us eating. I'm like, is that all we did? I think so. We just basically like eat, walk around, go somewhere else, eat, walk around. So you could get 3 4x6 on there, and of course more than that if you trim them down or do 4x6. And then if you want a double page spread, just do a mirror image, flip everything that you just did, and it will give you both. So it's just some subtle things, you know, about the layout that kind of give it the layering texture, allowing yourself to see a little bit over here, having a little bit of blade, yeah, making a good choice. If you have a group effort like me, you know how you can pop those out there against there. But once again, the biggest decision point for me was which punch to use. So sometimes if you're not sure and you want to do this layout, just go through your punches, see which one maybe would do well with the offset layering, and work your way backwards, especially if you're making it without photos, as I know many of you will. All right, Megan, I gave you your full 31 minutes.
Yay! I hopefully mine won't take the full 31 minutes, but let me. There we go. So, welcome, as Tessa mentioned, to September Power Hour. I am Megan Jax out here in nice, sunny, warm Arizona, Phoenix. We're going to cool down next week, I think. I'm going to come back from Indianapolis and get off the plane. It's going to be like highs or lows overnight in the 70s, which is pretty amazing. Highs in the mid 90s. So, it's changing, weather's changing. But today's layout, I'm going to be using the Birthday Bonanza collection again, making another birthday layout just because I thought it'd be fun. And I had the papers right here. Everything's a little bit crazy around me as I'm trying to pack some stuff to go to Indianapolis. So that should be fun. So yeah, I do see a comment there. My hair has gotten long. I haven't gotten it cut in like a solid 18 months. I moved away from my hairdresser, so I got to find a new one here in Phoenix, but we'll get it chopped soon. Okay, so I'm gonna switch over here to my overhead camera and we will go ahead and get started with All right. So my original layout, this technique where we're going to cut our paper on the diagonal and get ourselves those long strips to work with, I don't think is anything revolutionary. I think I've even done something, I think I did something similar to this for a summer scrap. But it's a great technique. Want to just kind of just remind everybody of that ability to, one, you can use your BMCs without your paper holder. And we talk about the Boilermaker cartridge system, the Boilermaker system. This is what I'm talking about when I refer to the paper holder. So you have a cartridge holder, which you have to use this if you're going to use the punch. This is always part of the Boilermaker system. But the paper holder is actually kind of optional to use. It's great if you want to just punch a border on the edge of the paper. It has everything lines up perfectly. But when we're doing something like a long diagonal piece here, we can actually just put our Boilermaker cartridge in here, and then we can punch without our paper holder. It's the same concept when you're punching in the round. You just don't use it with the paper holder, but you can just continue to punch away. But for this birthday one, I didn't want to repeat party hats and all that fun stuff. I am going to be using balloon and stars as my punch. And so it'll be good, a nice option to use. I am using paper from, as I mentioned, from the Birthday Bonanza collection, but this time I'm going to use this kind of fun stripe paper. The opposite side of that is kind of a dark bluish green color. So there's some nice contrast here. What I'm going to do is I will trim this on the diagonal, and then I'm going to have my balloons and stars will be in this opposite color. And we're going to put this all on white, the bright white cardstock. And talk about a little bit crazy. I was informed today while chatting with Tessa that she has not even opened a pack of the bright white cardstock. I found that hard to believe. She was trying to figure out what, or maybe it was yesterday when she was trying to figure out what she's going to make for a Meggan tape for her event. I told her she should just use bright white. She's like, I haven't even opened a pack of it yet. Really?
It's
Okay.
different than the back of the paper packs.
Well, but what I was reminding her is that you can't sell the cover sheets, but you want to get people familiar with the new bright white color. Okay, so here we need to cut this paper on the diagonal. That's our first step. This designer paper, you have the option. I think I'm going to do it this way so that when I put my stripes, so I put my triangles on my paper, that my stripes are going up and down. So I'm going to cut on the diagonal this way. Now there's a couple different ways we could do this. We can use an 18-inch ruler with a rotary cutter. I did have to order a new 18-inch ruler, but I haven't gotten it out of the Amazon packaging yet. So the other option is, if you watched one of my Scrapbook lives, you saw I do have an 18-inch trimmer from back in my photography days, which would allow me to put this in on the diagonal and trim it. But I'm going to just go old school here. And I'm going to go ahead and fold this paper on the diagonal. And we want to fold it in the direction that we want to cut. So I want to cut from here to here. I'm going to go ahead and fold it from there, so forth. And I don't need to like do the folds all the way out. I really just need to get this area in the middle. And the reason I'm willing to do this fold like this is because I know when I put my pictures on my layout that for the most part, I cover up everything. I cover up the folds. So here we go. You do need to have enough of it folded that you can get it straight on your paper, but you're going to put that diagonal in here, and you're going to go ahead and cut from the tip here all the way down. That's going to give us two triangular pieces. Now, the other way we could have done this, and this is originally what I actually tried folding the paper and then punching. But I will tell you, party hats did not like punching a folded two pieces of paper. It punched the two pieces right. What it did not like was having two borders in there. Things were starting to get caught up in the punch. I think it's partially because party hats look at this, all those the tops of those hats, you just catch everything. So it didn't work very well. But you could imagine, here's my paper. I could have folded this direction, got ahead and creased the line, and then punch down the line here and accomplish the same thing. But I wasted a piece of paper because I thought I could do it with party hats and it did not work. So that's why I went back to the just cut your paper in half first and go from there. After you cut the paper in half, you got your 2 diagonals. You're going to go ahead and grab your trim or your punch, whatever you're using, and you're just going to start punching. I recommend starting in the middle. Middle can be a rough approximation. I do have a spot here that tells me where the middle is, but I'm not overly concerned if I have it exactly. If you really want to, you can definitely work on getting it exact so you have an even placing of your border on either side, but then you're just going to punch. And you just work your way down. I am using a chain style punch, meaning that my design is going to release from the paper. You might be using an edge style or a knockout style. So your design may not be releasing from the paper. And my balloons and my stars are getting a little caught up in here. Let's see if I can get them out. There we go. You definitely just need to take care with your punches when you're punching. You don't want to have your paper get messed up. There we go. I've got one side done. I'm going to go ahead and finish punching on the other side. I'll do this for both of my triangles. And note, I am punching the long edge. That long edge of the triangle. That's important. You got to punch the long edge. And this is how we can get ourselves a border that is longer than 12 inches, which works really well when we're doing the pieces on the diagonal. So there's how things are starting to take shape. It'll actually sit on the paper like this. And then I need to go ahead and punch the other. Couple more punches and I'll have all of those pieces done. And then it will be time to go ahead and start putting it all together. I mean, it's really a simple technique. You can play around with how you want to do it, depending on the punches you're using. I could have used 2 different punches. I thought about that. I actually thought about doing one with gifts border punch. And so I could have had some gifts. And then the other side could have been done with the balloons, or I was thinking of maybe doing the banner. I haven't really used the banner border punch that came out a few months ago. But here we go. There you can see the pieces starting to take shape. Now I've got 2 pieces of the bright white, and I just thought it'd be fun. Keep it light and airy. And you can see here how it's going to start to come together. Depending on your paper, you've got some flexibility in how you incorporate your triangles. You could, I really can't go. Can't really do that, but you can see how you can kind of play around with it a little bit. It didn't quite work that way. It works when I had completely non-directional. It did work with the other one. I could have done my pages in different orders, but this one, because I have a little bit of direction to the paper, I don't quite have as much flexibility. Now, the one thing I want to do here is in my original layout, was thinking I would come out here clear to the corner. All right. I was going to come out here clear to the corner and would put this together. These are kind of designed what technically these balloons are upside down here, but you can just flip them around. But I didn't really like it all the way to the corner. So I went ahead and I brought it inset a little bit. Move this so you can see a little bit better there. So I inset it a little bit, about 1/4 of an inch all the way around, or on the 2 sides of the triangle. I'm going to go ahead and get that put in place here. One thing you may need to do, depending on your punching, is you might need to clean up your edge. You can see here, I've got, well, you may not be able to see, but there's a little bit of a spot here where I didn't punch super well. So I'm going to go ahead, grab my scissors and just smooth that out. And that way it won't be noticeable. And depending on your punch, you may find that you can just put on just regular, or you might need to do a little bit of, you might do a little bit of fussy cutting, maybe to clean things up. I'm going to fussy cut a little bit over here at this end. I want to get a nice clean star over here. And I think I'll do the same thing here. I have 2 stars that I'm going to clean up at those ends. Just to give myself kind of that finished punch. I am turning it around so that my balloons are upright. They're not floating upside down. So it just depends, because one of your punches will be upside down. So it is helpful. Like one of my party hats was upside down. I could have done it. I could have turned it, probably if I'd wanted to, but I think that's going to be fine. Find my little silicone mat to put my adhesive on my border. And I'll go ahead and do the other side the same way. Everything's going to get put together the same way. I see one spot I need to clean up with my scissors before I put this on. And I'll do the same thing here where I'm going to clean up. I guess I'm gonna go ahead and do star to star again, so that they should be the same. This is another fun one, just like Tessa mentioned, being able to kind of look through your tools, figure out which punch you want to use. Lots of versatility in these layouts tonight, so you can work with a collection or tools that match the theme of your photos, which is nice, because then when you are, maybe you realize you do need some birthday photos, or maybe you need some other birthday layouts, you need some other types of layouts. You can pick your tools and know you'll have those photos coming. Get this on very straight. The other thing, depending on your, I do see a question with the BMC, and I'll answer that in just a second. You could have come down here. I could have put this, depending on my particular paper, your paper choices, you can come down and actually layer it in here. My background, my designer paper is just too busy to do that, but that would be an option for you. If you used a edge style or a knockout style, and your design is still attached to your triangle, you can cut it off with your trimmer. You may have to maybe get a little fancy trying to get that piece cut off. You might need to use a ruler and then some scissors to cut it. But I do see the question about how you line things up with a BMC. And as you put your paper through, I'm just going to use the instructions here. I can go ahead, I flip it over to work from the back side, put my paper in, and then I'll go ahead and punch. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide it over. Party hat. Oh, it's being a little bit of a pistol. You slide it over until you get where you can just barely see. I can see that edge. See there? It's behind that hat, and I'm gonna slide it over. I can see that edge, and I want to go just until like I can maybe see like a tiny sliver and then punch. And I did a terrible job because I was not really paying attention, but you can see how they should line up if you take the time to punch slowly. So if you've never used your Boilermaker cartridge that way, you might want to practice on a piece of paper or some spare cardstock or something like that that will allow you to punch along to do that technique. Okay, so after we need, I need some mats for this, and I'm not sure what color mats. So I'll get my swatch out. I could come in with the pink, like we could use the lipstick pink. What's that?
Dark sea green. That's my favorite.
But I think dark sea green is just, I've already got that here in this, and they just doesn't pop. Yeah, it just doesn't pop off the page. I actually probably, for my particular taste, this is leaf green, which if I come in to the shimmer paper, parakeet shimmer is, I have parakeet shimmer in here. I don't have all my shimmers in here for some reason. That I should have told Tessa that was the make and take she needed to have, where we could get the shimmer papers and make all those. But what I do have is I have a scrap of it right here. Yeah, I'm going to use the green. And I just cut 4x6 mats because 4x6 mats, in my opinion, are the most efficient, well, the most efficient way to use your paper. I am seeing a comment from Lauren that she was able to diagonal fold. Oh, she left the diagonal folded after she cut it and then put it in the BMC. That is a great way to do it, is you could just put it in there, fold it in the paper holder that way would be really good. Okay, so here 4x6. This is 4 inches. Nope, it is a little less than 4 inches. To go get another piece. Yeah, I'm glad you guys are finding the efficient way to do it. I have sometimes in my mind a technique that I want to do, and I don't always necessarily realize, oh, hey, if I just would do it this way, like I'll come across, it'll be thought of later. Oh, I just could have done that. Like as you guys are finding tonight, there's ways to make it a little bit easier. So I cut a 12x12 paper into 6 4x6 mats. You can of course adjust as you need it. You basically have a background here. And then you can start arranging your photos however works best for you. Now, the one thing that I have discovered when you're putting together a layout like this, and you've got this, anytime you put a border or a decorative element in the middle of the page, that's obviously where you sometimes want to put your photos. So it was a little bit of a like, well, okay, where do I put the photos to make sure you can see enough of the punch to just justify all the work we've just done, right? You've taken the time to to punch your paper and all that stuff. You want to now be able to see it. So that's why there was a little bit more of some empty spaces left here, because we do want the design. But the 4x6 is great because if you do need to add some additional photos, you can do a peekaboo pocket with any of these. So you can, of course, layer them on however makes sense for you. I would just put them on probably the same way I did the sample. Plenty of spaces to add those embellishment details, and also then flexibility if you need to, if you have more vertical photos than horizontal photos, you can of course just mirror this one over here. And so forth. So that's pretty much the layout that I have for you guys. And then you have plenty of room to add embellishment details. You can see here that I added the various little embellishments from the Birthday Bonanza collection. So this one I'll probably leave more a little new, not quite as embellished, so that I can add those later once I actually have photos to put on here. So, all right, that is my layout for tonight. Look at that. I got done in 20 minutes. I would like to say that is probably a record for me, but I knew this would be a good one. And I do appreciate it. I just have having some jaw issues where it's like radiating pain down in through my teeth. So it just chewing and talking for a longer periods of time are not enjoyable things for me at the moment. So I'm going to turn it back over to Tessa to wrap things up so that I can give the jaw a rest. So, but thank you guys for joining us tonight. So here you go, Tessa.
And if you know Megan, you know how hard it is for her not to talk or snack, which are both necessary retreat activities. And so all week I'm like, she's probably like annoying me because I'm like, are you better yet? How's it feeling? Do you find any meds at work? I have some here you can use, because I'm like, how do you come to retreat and then have to sit there in silence? I don't, it will torture her. It was, everyone has to talk to her, I guess. But before I say wrap up, I'm going to flip back to my layout, because I did the other half while Megan was teaching. So this is what if you do a mirror image, this is what your two layout could look at. I started to put my layout, my pictures on here, but I'm actually not convinced I have them all printed, as you know, like once it's been a little bit of time and then you're like, wait a minute, I think I have more photos than that. So I'm going to have to go back in my camera roll, make sure that before I actually put them on there. So I can't wait to see what you guys do, especially with mine on which punch you choose. So you want to post it in the ideas group. And I think we can all be honest here and accept that not only am I not going to do the drawing next week or the week after, or probably even by the end of September, I think the new pattern has been I will do the drawing when I post next month, because that's what I've been doing. So tomorrow when I email out tonight, I'll do the drawing for last month. So we'll just be real and know that you have the whole month until the next episode to get your layout done. We are not totally sure when October will be. It gets a little tricky with her fall break and my fall break. I'm not sure, actually it can be on Tuesday. She doesn't know that yet. But I'll talk to her about that when she gets here. Coming up next for us is Croptoberfest, which is the Thursday in September 26th. September 26th at 1:00 Eastern, we'll be doing the Croptoberfest project or customer bundle that did sell out, unfortunately. So hopefully you guys are on top of it and you already have your bundle ready to do that. Megan says she's going to use hand signals. I'm not great at reading lips either, but it might be a good episode of charades when we all try to figure out what she's telling us. Yeah, so join us on September 26th for Cryptoverfest. And then this weekend too, we're going to work out exactly what we're going to do for Autumn Cottage. I can expect that will probably be the first Thursday in October. But we will finalize that this weekend also. We will probably use the project booklet, but if you have gotten Autumn Cottage and project booklet, you probably notice they leave a lot of paper unused. And we don't roll like that. We like to use things up. So I think we're going to expand that into a full class. We just we'll do it. Croptoberfest will be at 1:00 Eastern. It will be recorded, as everything that we do. And I like now when some of you ask, will it be recorded? And now you're like, I assume it will be recorded. Yes, everything we do is recorded, unless we happen to fail to hit the button. But Megan is in charge of that and she hasn't failed us yet. I think that is everything. The other thing we emailed it about, but Stamp and Storage sale is all month for September, which is amazing. The 15% off and free shipping. So please, those of you that no one has stalked my background yet to notice, I got my second carousel. You see it back here, and I got it in white. So my original one's down here. It's kind of dark back there. My original one is the natural wood. And so I bumped out the stuff that was there and got the white one. So now I can sit here and spin them both, which is very fun. So if you're organizing this month, use our Stamp and Storage link to shop, please, because that's what pays for our Power Hour email. Because we spend about $100 a month emailing all of you, amazingly enough. There's so many of you. So I can sell in the background. Some of you have already invested in your organizing, which is fun. I can see Diane's behind hers. I can see Jenny's got all her bunches behind her. A lot of you that have your camera on, I can see that you did. So Megan's not, I can't even see her face. I assume I remembered everything. She's probably packing to get on her flight here. Thumbs up. I was very proud of her when she decided to move from Seattle, that she did move to a city that has nonstop flights to Indianapolis. So I know that was high on her list of criteria when she decided to move out of the Northwest, but she did a good job, because when I go out there, I can get nonstop to Phoenix also. What are the wooden crates? Oh, these, are you talking about these down here? These are the, they're stamp and storage also, the paper crates. The one of them is the one I had originally. The other one is the one that Megan and I helped design, that is wide, big enough to hold the pod inserts. So the first one has, it basically becomes a second work space for me. Someday I will have this off camera. You won't see my mess beside me all the time. But the one over there has all my cardstock. And this one is half cardstock and then half projects in queue, what I'm working on. So all of my cardstock are in, I actually use the Stampin' Storage paper sleeves. You guys, a lot of you know this, because they're open on the two sides for my cardstock, and they're actually cheaper than Creative Memories. Don't tell Allison I said that. I still love these more. So all my cardstock's in this in rainbow order there, and underneath it, so this is a 2-stack level. This is a high level. I have crates underneath. Now it is not easy to access what's underneath there, so you don't want anything in there you're going to use very much. So like mine has backfill cardstock of colors that are sold out that I need to refill the top. And the second one, actually, if you guys have the paper crates, you know that they're open on the side, like there's a hole. And so I actually have the bottom of mine hole open, and I slide things into it, kind of like a little shelf. And so it has my card pod in there. And sometimes I put my little small pod in there with the cutting system. So I just kind of leave that open and get it. And then right here beside me that you see my trimmers and all that sitting on is a Raskog cart from IKEA still, because that's the only amount of space I had left. And that's what basically it's like my junk tabletop of everything I'm trying to push off camera. And then I can kind of access theirs. I know some people are like, oh, you have such a nice space. Believe me, girls, if you were here, you would recognize the hot mess that I live in. If any of you might also live in a warehouse, you know that it's kind of hard to keep clean. The Ziploc bags, I keep them, I use these a lot for shipping stuff back out or keeping things together. And then at my retreat, I always have a box because I make all my customers recycle them to me, and the cardboard inserts. So if you get some stuff shipped for me and it's in a baggie or a piece of cardboard, it probably got reused. But they're basically big Ziplocs. You could probably use them in the kitchen too if it's like, or just keep anything together. Make sure I don't have any questions. Thank you for the prayers. Yeah, Campbell is having her surgery next Wednesday. You guys probably all heard that she tore ACL. So our sports days are on pause right now, which has been very sad to me. But it's 6 months back to return to sport. So she will be out for soccer and basketball this year. She's anxious. Megan asked me, like, how's she doing? I'm like, she's very inward a little bit, but I know she just wants to get it over with. She doesn't like the idea of cutting into her. She doesn't want to stay at the hospital. I'm like, sweetie, you're going to be groggy. The physician that we do, those of you anywhere near the medical field know that they usually send these kids home outpatient. But this physician actually keeps them 23-hour obs. So she'll stay overnight. They are very on top of the swelling. Like she will be in bed on ice in the continuous motion machine until Monday for her post-op visit. I think that's why his outcomes are so good, because he's so diligent about keeping the swelling down from the beginning. So she thinks she's going to be very bored in bed, and I think she will probably be a little anxious. That's a lot of homework to try to keep on top of, but I'm like, there's so much you can binge on Netflix. I mean, it's not the worst thing to have to just sit in bed. I would sit in bed for 5 days if I could, and just or put my little scrapbook table in front of me. I think I would have to be like upright to scrapbook. It might be hard. Have anybody tried to scrapbook like 3/4 back, it's probably a little bit challenging. Yeah, that's good to stay one day. So thank you all for that. And if you, of course, have any questions, you guys know where to find us. And we'll all pray for Meggan. So everyone, when you say your prayers, you go to bed at night, please pray that Meggan's mouth will feel better so she can talk and eat at the retreat, because it will not be the same if she can't. Thank you, Lord. Amen. Okay. Well, you can all go catch into the debate. And she said, we got her face back on here for that. Now she's gonna be like, stop making me smile. It hurts to smile. Yeah. Yeah, she's not gonna talk, but she does ask. Okay. We'll see you all next month. Have a good night.